Genesis 33 through 36, our story of Jacob continues. I want to draw our attention this time to chapter 35. It's interesting at the beginning of 35 that Jacob tells his family to send away those idols, and he buries them, which is an amazing point, again, this far into the story, that the family of Jacob is already, and well, still being challenged to worship the right Elohim. But in chapter 35, God tells Jacob to go back to the place called Beth-el, the house of El. And that's actually a retelling then of chapter 28. So chapter 35 will be retelling the story that already happened back in chapter 28. Remember, what happens there is, in fact, in verse 12, Jacob takes a nap and he dreams of what's said to be angels going up and down this ladder that he was dreaming of. Angels going up and down from earth to heaven and back. What's interesting is in 35:7, we have this interesting phrase where God is retelling the story. He says, "It was at that point that Elohim appeared to you." And most of our translations, I think all of them actually that I saw, have the word God, capital G, here. God appeared, as though that he's saying that in this story God appeared to Jacob. But what we have to catch is that in Hebrew, the word appear, that verb is actually in the plural, which then tells us this is a plural noun. Remember how Elohim can be plural or singular. So what he's saying in 35:7 is that back in this situation, plural created gods appeared to Jacob. Now, that clues us off as to how to understand that term. Here's what I'd recommend that you do from here on out, and we could have done this back in chapter 16, 18, 19, and so forth, where we've had the mention of angels. You can do this consistently, and it will help you read your Old Testament more accurately. Every time you see the word angel in the Old Testament, I want you to understand that the Hebrew term malach, which is behind it, just means messenger. It doesn't tell you what kind of messenger. It could be human, it could be divine. But this is a translational word that's really doing more than this word really wants to do. Because again, the Hebrew word behind angel can actually be a human messenger. So I'd recommend that you just get rid of that word out of your vocabulary. And even go so far as to say there are no such thing as angels. That's a made-up medieval term, actually. And that what we have in the Bible are messengers. What that forces us to do when we see that word messenger is ask ourselves, well, what kind? A messenger what? Notice what we have when you compare then these stories, that these were gods that appeared. These were gods going back and forth. These were messenger gods that were meeting and possibly even talking with Jacob. Well, what's the point of this illustration or this of making this clear? This is going to be, well, two things. I've often in teaching the Bible heard people say, well, I believe in angels, but I don't believe in gods. The problem is they're the same thing in the Bible. Divine messengers are regularly going to be called Elohim. So we do believe in gods. All this time we have believed in other gods. The reality of them, in fact, and I would even say I don't believe in angels, I believe in gods. That would be a much more biblical way of thinking. And number two, I just want us to be ready for when we get to the first commandment. It's in Exodus 20. And God says, "Thou shalt have no other Elohim before me." Just realize how much water has backed up to that dam up to that point, and that how many of the biblical characters, Jacob is a good example, have been dealing with these other gods in very real ways, even to the point of worshiping them. So that the first commandment has much more meaning, I think, when we understand this than we may otherwise understand.